Okay, so before we get going on the program, I just wanted to mention that we got in some more sweater knit. So remember the pink and gray sweater knit that the Cardigan Express kit comes in the kit? This has turned out to be my favorite. I did the pink and the red, but the pink one, I just am constantly wearing it. I thought I would
She
be
sleeps in it.
no. But anyways, it's just so comfortable and it's kind of like elevates your look a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
just enough to go to the doctors or, to run out of the house to do something. So, anyways, I love it. And so I also bought it in a denim blue. So I wanted you to see it's a ribbed knit.
I'll do it. You're
Okay, thanks.
doing it to the. This is where it takes the video.
That's where it shows up. Okay. So, anyways, it's a ribbed sweater knit, and it's just one of those really cozy, comfy sweaters.
So this is the.
And it's machine washable and it's good on both sides. So we had a lot of fun with it. And if you'll take a look at the Cardigan Express pattern, you'll notice that we turned the ribs vertical for the center piece in the front just to give it a little more interest. And it really did come out really sharp. So, anyway, we have that. And then we did get back in the
Very popular.
very, very popular black with the white polka dot bamboo spandex knit. This is a fabulous t-shirt knit, and of course the bamboo makes it luscious, but the little tiny fine dot just gives it that real just that classic look. You can wear that with just about
Yeah, and it has a really
anything,
nice
yeah.
drape.
The bamboo does, yeah. So, anyways, that's some of the fabrics we got in that we had hoped to tell you about 2 weeks ago. So those are in, and you can buy those in kits as well as a la carte by the yard. All right, so today I want to talk about something that drives most home sewers crazy, and I remember it drove me nuts when I didn't have enough knowledge to know what was wrong. So when the tension starts to go wrong in your machine and you're sewing along and or you just start a project, whenever it happens, and you notice that the stitch isn't as nice as it could be, and maybe there's a little loop from the bobbin thread coming to the top, or a little loop from the top thread going to the bottom, or maybe you're just getting all kinds of crazy loops. And I see this online a lot in the sewing groups, people posting and what happened, what went wrong. And then I see a lot of advice. Much of it is confusing and maybe not quite as systematic or as accurate as it could be. So I want to help save you the frustration or stop having the frustration. So, anyways, we have two sets of tension in a straight stitch sewing machine or zigzag sewing machine. So the top tension, you'll know that you thread your thread through and around that little disc. Well, there are two discs that the thread goes in between. And those discs have a spring behind them. And according to the tension dial, how much torque or pressure is put on those discs by that spring is the amount of tension for the top. So that's what controls the top tension. The bottom tension is controlled through the bobbin case. So we have our regular bobbin and then the bobbin case. Now, some of you may have bobbin that are drop in, but in this case, I'm just going to
This
talk.
case.
In this situation,
Nice.
I'm going to talk about this particular bobbin case. So when we see that our tension has gone bad, mostly we are wondering, well, what do I adjust? Do I adjust the top? Is it the top? Is it the bobbin? So like if it's uneven, it could be the top's too loose or the bottom's too tight. How do I know which one it is? What do I do? So the first thing you want to do is set your machine to whatever the setting, the standard setting for the tension is. So most of them have an average standard setting. I remember on one of mine, the electronic ones, it would automatically set to 5 every time. Now that's not on my mechanical machine because 5 would be really big in a mechanical machine. So it's more like a 3. But anyway, so you want to set it to whatever that is. So then chances are the top tension is good. But we want to check the bobbin tension. So if you think there's something wrong with the bobbin tension, to test the bobbin. So we make sure the bobbin is wound firmly. It isn't all, sometimes we have bobbin winders that just don't do as nice a job. That will make a big difference in the tension. Your thread should be nice and firm and tightly woven so that it gets delivered in a very consistent manner. And when it goes into the bobbin case, the thread is going this way and then it's going to come back this way through the little disc. Okay. So now I have it threaded. You want to show them what that looks like. Now, before you even put your bobbin in the case, you should probably take a little brush.
Hold on. So take a second to focus.
Yeah. Okay. You probably want to take a little brush and clean it out because there are little discs inside of that case that lint can get caught behind. And if lint's behind there, it's going to change the tension because it's going to cause pressure. Okay. So now, if you want to know if your bobbin tension is correct, you're going to suspend your bobbin by holding on to the thread like this. Whoops. Well, that didn't work. So,
Not like that.
not like that. Let me grab another one. All right, this one might be a little loose. Let's see. Okay, so see how it just sort of moves. It doesn't move real fast, but it will, the thread will come through there. That is about what you want. If it goes like that first one did, and I don't know why that happened. I
It
don't,
fell out. That's why.
yeah, it fell out. If it slides right through, then you need to tighten that bobbin tension because that's too loose. And if it won't budge at all, if you're shaking it and the bobbin will not move, then it's too tight. There's a small screw on the side of your bobbin case. It's the top one. And you want to consult your manual. So be sure to consult your manual, but then you take a tiny screwdriver and you tighten it. And remember, right is tight and left is loose. You tighten it by just maybe a 32nd of an inch. So just a little bit, then test it. So you're going to do a little at a time. Once that bobbin is moving just through there, like I showed you, and if anybody didn't completely, I know that I wasn't always in the camera when I did.
Yeah, and it's having a little bit of a hard time focusing. So I'll just say, like, when she. Yeah, a little bit.
Hold it. Yeah. Okay.
So when you give it a little bit of movement, you
Yeah.
can see it's falling.
Right. There you go. That's
But if you're holding it and it just falls, no good.
too loose. And if you're holding it and shaking it and it won't move, too tight. So a very small change will help make that adjustment. Okay. Remember, you better have a brand new needle in there because you want to make sure that you're not skewing your results when you do your test stitching. You want to use a light colored basic thread. So use your basic construction thread and use a light colored thread. And the reason is that light colored threads deliver a much to the eye a much nicer looking, straighter stitch. When you use darker colors, and you may have noticed this yourself if you top stitch in black or navy blue, it just, for some reason, because of the dark color, it just doesn't deliver as pretty of a look. So, but the light color will make it easier for you to see that it is a nice clean stitch and that it is balanced. You want to make sure that you stitch on 2 layers of fabric. And if you're trying to test you're on a specific project, be sure to use that fabric. Um, let's see. So let's talk about what is a balanced stitch. And I want to talk about this book real quickly. So this book right here, what does it say? Sewing machine.
Reference tool.
Yes. This gentleman is obviously a sewing machine mechanic, and he really knows his stuff. And what he put in this book is all the things that you could do at home. There are things you can't do at home, especially with all the electronic boards and things, but basic things you can clean and adjust and not have to wait and take it into the repair. So this is a great little book. It's helped me in several situations, but he has a great picture in here of what a balanced stitch, like a exaggerated. All right, Jess. So the top picture is, yeah. The top picture, you can see the stitches, the top and the bottom stitch meet right in the middle. And that means that on the top of the fabric, all you see is a stitch, a tiny space, a stitch, a tiny space. And same thing on the bottom. But if you should see a stitch and then a little loop on the bottom or the top, then you know your uh, your tension is out of balance and that you must adjust it until you get this stitching right in the center. So when you first start out, just try that your tension disc at the top. But if you just cannot get that right and you're sure there's something wrong, then you do the test I talked about with the bobbin and the light colored thread, stitch through 2 layers after you're sure you've got your bobbin.
I'm going to show this
Oh,
again because you didn't get the whole thing, and
oh,
the author's name is down here, Bernie, and I don't want to mess up his last
yeah, but I'm sure you can. I think I got it on Amazon. So I'm sure you can get it on Amazon. But it's a wonderful little. It's spiral bound, so it's a concealed spiral bound, so it's easy to lay flat at your machine. And he just gives you so many great tips on all different types of basic sewing machines. Okay, so let's see. Other reasons the tension could go bad. So let's say that you went through all these tests. You tested the top, you got that even, you tested the bottom, you cleaned your bobbin case, you put in a new needle, everything should be right, but it is not. So there are a couple of issues that could be happening, and they don't happen often, but they do happen, and they probably happen uh sometime in your sewing career anyway. So what happens is you can get a burr. And what a burr is, okay, here's our throat plate. And on the throat plate, you see the tiny little holes that the needle goes through. Yours might be a long rectangle shape if you've got a zigzag machine. In either case, if you're stitching along and you know when it's happened, you hit a needle, you hit a pin, or you hit a big thick piece of fabric and your needle goes cuckoo, kind of bends or whatever. If it hits this plate in here, it can cause what's called a burr. And that little burr is tiny, so tiny that you might not even be able to see it. Every few stitches, it catches the thread. It catches the thread and just causes things not to be happy. So you always want to watch for burrs, and you can get a burr on the hook in your bobbin case even. So after going through all these tests, if that might be the case, then you're going to have to talk to your sewing machine repair person and possibly get a new bobbin case. And a lot of people keep two bobbin cases, especially if you like to do what's called bobbin work, where you put a heavier thread or an elastic thread into the bobbin. That way you can adjust that second case to be much wider to accept uh,
The thicker
specialty
yeah.
threads. Yeah, yeah. Um, okay. Any questions so far? Crickets. Okay.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of a delay, but I don't have any
Okay.
before you ask.
All right. So I've got one more issue that a lot of people don't even understand. And most machines have it, even the older ones. And that is the pressure on the presser foot. So it's usually located at the top of the machine. Sometimes it's a little button. Sometimes it's a little knob that turns, and other times it's electronic, but it definitely, you can change the pressure of that foot. And if you have too much pressure on a specific type of fabric, let's say you went from light fabric to a heavier fabric and you still have the same pressure, you could be really causing a lot of trouble, especially pushing that top layer through faster. But it can cause wrinkling or distortion, which you might mistake for a tension problem. So be sure to double check and learn more about the pressure of the presser foot. It makes a huge difference from denim to silk. It's just such a big difference, and it'll just give you much nicer stitches. Now, another thing I like to talk about is a stitch sample. And if you've taken any class from me, I talk about it all the time. And I like to create a stitch sample. So that would be two pieces of fabric from the garment that I'm about to make. So when I cut it out, I take from the scraps a couple of pieces about the same size. And if that garment has interfacing in it, like a jacket or a shirt, then I'm going to put the interfacing in and I'm going to sandwich the fabric. So the fabric's on either side. The interfacing is on the inside. The same fabric and thickness of fabric I would be stitching through if I was making a cuff on a denim jacket. Okay. So now I want to see my stitching. If you can, and I'm not sure you'll be able to see over here, but I have stitched started at a 2.
This
So
one.
over here on this side, can you even see the stitches in the first couple of rows? If you can, you're lucky. But so each row is another kick up in the length of stitches. So when you get to the last row, I think we're either at a 4.5 or a 5 in length. But you see how now the stitches set on top of the fabric. Before, in the earlier part, they were just getting buried right into the fabric. And if you're going to do some top stitching on denim, you don't want it buried. And you could also test different colors. Let's say you wanted gold top stitching, but maybe you had 3 or 4 different golds or oranges you wanted to try. And I really think you should, because what you find out by surprise sometimes is the first color that you would have chosen is not the color you end up really, really liking. So, for example, in this particular fabric, I had a heck of a time finding the color top stitching that I liked. And the orange was too orange and the black didn't show up. And I went through so many different colors of thread and I finally landed on silver, and it's an embroidery thread. Oh, I got it backwards. Sorry. You got to watch me today, Jess.
Every day.
Yeah.
I can't keep up.
So the silver, because the fabric is complex, I didn't want it to be real busy. So I like the
Oh,
silver,
sure.
but there's no silver in the fabric.
But
So
did you originally think the orange would
I
look?
originally thought the orange or the off-white or the black, which are the colors that are in it, were going to look good. And when I put them on there, I didn't like it. So the silver was it. Now, when I went to stitch up this new shirt, and here's my fabric, the first time we made something out of this, we top stitched it in white. And I think Brenda's got it over there. And I didn't like the looks of it at all. So then the next time we top stitched the same fabric, this has like a navy blue in it. So we did it in the navy blue, but it showed up more than I wanted it to in the navy blue. Right.
There we go.
All right.
That's the navy.
So then I tried the mint green. That didn't look good.
Here.
And then I tried the royal blue right next to it, these two colors. I tried those, and those didn't work. So I sat down a minute and I thought about it, and I said, I've had to employ this strategy before. The mint green plus the royal blue equals teal. I top stitched this in teal, and it looks the best. And there's no teal in this garment, but it blended the best. Let's show them the neckline, Jess. Will you help me?
Yeah, sure. That's what I'm here for.
Well, I don't hold it right.
Yep.
So there you can see the top stitching on there in the teal. It it isn't, in your face, but you can see it, and it looks nice on the fabric, and you'd never guess it was a color that's not in the print. So that's kind of fun. So sometimes when you don't find just the right colors, go outside the box. Okay, stitch samples.
As I
Uh,
was wondering, Elsa, she doesn't. Does the bobbin thread have to be the same as the top thread for top stitching?
that's a really good question. And the question is, does the bobbin thread have to be the same type or weight of thread as the top thread, especially when you're top stitching? Well, I will tell you a project I did quite a few years ago when I did my first craftsy class had top stitching in it. And I had a nightmare of a time trying to figure this out. The heavier thread was not fitting through the bobbin. It just, in the machine I was using, it just didn't like it. No matter what I did, it wouldn't create a balanced stitch. So then I tried using a different thread in the bobbin, and that didn't work either. What I ended up learning and discovering, I guess, as I went on, is that yes, you do need to balance the top and the bottom in a basic sewing machine. They just aren't equipped to be that much of a genius and understanding and being able to balance the different threads. But if you want a good look of a top stitch, but you can't manage to work that top stitching thread in your machine, use two spools of like a dual duty Coats and Clark or a Gutermann all-purpose thread, and one thread in the bobbin, and that will work. And it will give you more thread in your top stitching to give it a little nicer look, and it'll allow you to have balanced stitching, balanced tension. Another thing that could cause problems with your tension, specifically, we talked about this a lot when we were working with lawn. So when you have a lightweight fabric or sheer fabric like lawn or voile or even gauze, the dual duty, the regular construction thread is too thick. Believe it or not, it seems real thin to us, but it's too thick and it will pucker the seam. And anybody who's ever sat down with a piece of lawn and tried to stitch it up knows exactly what I'm talking about. And no matter what you do with your machine, you cannot make that seam lay smooth, that puckered seam. And it's strictly because the thread is too heavy for the fabric. So what you want is a lighter thread. And the lighter thread is often called fine. How am I doing?
You just gotta hold. No,
I'm not doing.
that's not your fault though.
Okay.
That's just having a hard time focusing.
So the Colson Clark called it fine. But then it's used an awful lot in paper piecing. So I think they rebranded it or relabeled it paper piecing thread, but it's the same thread. It doesn't come in as many colors as regular thread, but another thread that has a lot of options or a lot of colors is the Superior Thread Company, and they have a thread. What is this one called?
So fine.
So Fine, and that comes in a lot of colors. And that also will be the proper weight for a lightweight fabric. So the 50 weight is what you normally use, and the 60 weight is the lighter weight. The numbers are reversed. You would think it'd be the other way, but it's not. So the 50 weight is what you normally use for your all purpose thread. The 60 weight is lighter weight, and that's what you want to use. Now, they've said to me before, well, can I use my serger thread? No, I would not use my serger thread unless it was in a pinch emergency. And that is because that thread, if you look at it, is very irregular. It is not meant for construction. It's meant to be worked with through two or three other threads to hold a seam together, not taking care of the whole operation by itself. So it was not intended for that. So it's not going to be as good.
Mary Berg, she has a tip that she's been doing. She said, I've started using the fine thread for my buttonholes. They look much nicer and less bulky.
Oh, that's a great tip,
That's,
Mary. Yeah, let's all try that. I think I'll try that too. Um, on some fabrics, especially.
well, yeah, and it's
Is it?
like
Yeah.
you were saying, this looks fine. It's a piece of thread. What could be finer than this? But when you're talking about the weight of the fabric and the weight of the
Mhm.
threads in the fabric, you can see that there does become
Yeah.
a difference.
Yeah, and needle size makes a huge difference too, and I hadn't touched on that yet. Um, for most projects, I use an 80-12 universal needle. I like the chromes, and I specifically, well, the only needle I use is Schmetz. I just they're they're excellent. No reason to try anything else. And they also have a fabulous directory on their website. So if you are in a quandary or wondering what type of needle to use for a certain project, go on there. You'll be surprised at how many different types of needles there are. But there's leather needles. There's 2-eye needles. There's twin needles. There's, I think, triple needles. There's twin needles that are different widths apart. And then you go in all the different sizes, and you've got the microtex and the fine, so many things. But if you're having a little trouble and you don't want to buy all the needles there are, and you need to know which one to get, they've got a really good little program on their website for you to look that up. All right. Another thing that we like to talk about, and I know there's a newer edition of this book. This is Sandra Bensina's book, Fabric Savvy. Now she did this book. This is the first edition. Let's see if I can figure out what date she did this. 99. So this is from 99. Sometime after that, she did a second
Sometimes
one.
after that, in the last couple of
Yeah.
years.
So, well, I don't know. But now, and I don't know when the newest one came out, but I think just if you can look it up, more fabric savvy, it might be called, or
I
complete.
had it up last week
Yeah.
and the week before, but I'll get it.
Anyway, what is so cool about this? Because this has happened to me so many times. So, what Sandra told us when somebody said, "Well, why'd you create such It is really well done, organized book. Um, and she said because she got tired of having to figure out a problem. So, in other words, maybe she worked on a silk voile and figured out the exact stitch length and the right needle and the right thread and the right whatever, stabilizers, interfacings. And then 2 years later, you go to make another one and you go, oh, I'm having a problem. I remember having that problem, but I don't remember how I fixed it. Now I got to go through all this again. Where in this book, she's going to tell you the needle, the foot, the properties of that particular fabric, what best garments it works best in, just and all in a brief 2 page, and then you're on to the next fabric. And again, 2 pages, you've got a real quick, easy directory. You know exactly uh, the things you need to do to be successful in sewing that particular fabric type. So that helps a lot too. And I think the new book,
Okay,
it,
the new book is all new fabric savvy. And so it has the information that this book has, but she states that it's has additional information for new fabrics that have
mm-hmm,
come out, and we've
sure.
talked about that before, and then new notions and sewing tools and
Yeah.
stuff that you can use, so it would be added in
Well, yeah, when you
addition to what
think
is already in there.
24 years ago, in the last 24
Yeah.
years, lots of different products, and we're doing things a little bit different all the time. So, yeah, I'm glad she came out with that, and I'm going to have to get that one.
Yeah,
Uh,
she just came out with it just like a couple of years ago in 2017.
that one is at 17. I didn't even know. Well, I haven't
Well,
seen it
this one
on.
has been serving you well, just fine. So,
Well, yeah, and I just love the way that it's organized. It
so the
couldn't be
new one
better.
has, yeah,
I don't want to go in, and I know some people do, but I don't want to read a whole chapter
right.
on a specific. I'm sitting down, I'm going to make the
Give me the
project.
meat and the
Yeah,
potatoes. Tell
give
me
me
what
the
I need.
give me the basics. Give me the basic. Bullet points are my favorite. Okay. So I think that covers everything that could cause problems. It's just that so often we think it's the tension and we start playing with that upper tension disc, and maybe it's the thread, maybe it's the needle, maybe there's a burr. Think of about that there's a far more options that it could be than to just get frustrated and think it's the tension. All right.
Ethel has a question
Sure.
about using the double needle.
Okay.
How do you adjust tension to avoid the ridge between the two rows of stitches when you use the double needle? And she said, especially on knits.
Yeah, and that's a real simple answer.
Good.
And all you have to do is loosen that screw. It has to be loosened. And this is another reason some sewers prefer two bobbin cases, because they don't ever want the main one to ever be out. They don't want to have to guesswork. But honestly, once a sewing machine dealer repairman showed me that trick with the bobbin, that's all you need to know. You can adjust that screw until it floats through there just the right amount, and you're good. But anyway, you just loosen that screw. And again, do it at a 32nd of an inch increments until the seam lies perfectly flat. And then don't forget to put it back when you're done. All right. Any other questions?
Is it always the bobbin tension for tunneling in double needle?
Yes, that's absolutely all it is. Here's the thing, you've got two needles coming down. You've got one bobbin thread. Normally, that bobbin thread connects with one needle. It makes a stitch. Now it's got to go, and it's grabbing both of them. Well, it's got the same tension it had with one, but it's going back and forth. So it's going to automatically be tighter because it's pulling, because it's doing two instead of one. So yeah, that's all I've ever recognized it to be. I can't imagine it could be
I mean, I'm
anything
sure
else.
there's
Well, yeah,
something, but
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, 99%.
stitch length can make a difference too. I didn't, but that's pretty elementary. I think you all know that. And we did have some lively discussions by way of email about
Lively.
about the a letter in the newsletter today about
Yes.
yeah. So if anyone has any questions or comments that relate to that subject, we're happy to talk about those today as well. And in the meantime, let's see. I had anything written down I wanted to discuss that I didn't. I hope everybody's had a chance to take a look at the Knit Fit series. We've got it complete now, a fresh new one for you. And it came out really nice. And I guess what else do we have today, Jess?
Well, if you're joining late, don't forget she was talking about the new fabric that she has to make the cardigan or
Yeah,
whatever you choose, but it's
cardigan, the
this
sweater.
beautiful, denim color. And this that we've been asked to get in stock a bunch of times, we have in stock again the bamboo.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Yeah, so I guess that's all for today, unless there's any other questions. And we're sorry that we had to postpone 2 weeks in a row, but we will be back the 1st of October with some exciting news. So
Oh, I can't wait.
you already know what it is.
Um,
Anyway,
Carolyn, you can just go onto islandersewing.com and you can sign up for the newsletter there. If you don't find the link, it'll just pop up and ask you if you want to sign up.
you
Just
can't be
wait a
on
minute.
there very long. It's one of
Just,
those
just
pop-ups.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right there, islandersewing.com. Okay. And we'll have exciting news in October.
Yeah, it's only 2 weeks away, right?
Yeah, probably. We tried this 3 times. So one more in October.
Yeah.
Is your jacket cut on the bias?
Oh, the one I'm wearing? No. But there's three pieces that make up the front of the jacket. And the middle piece, the ribbing is turned in a different direction to give it more interest. And the ribbing goes horizontally every place else. It's a good on both sides fabric. So we don't, the hem is actually hemmed to the, on the collar is hemmed to the front, folded over to the front, same as the sleeves.
And tell her the name of that pattern.
And the name of the pattern is Cardigan Express. It's one of our newest ones. You get this in a kit, and you can get a really nice steel gray, a denim blue, or this vintage pink, and in the kit, and you get the pattern, and you get the stay tapes and the double-sided tape you're going to need for the hem come in that kit as well. So you get the pattern and fabric, everything you need, except for thread.
Oopsies. I tried to give her the link. Well, it still works. Islandersewing.com. It's right on
Kits.
no, it's right on the homepage for this
Oh,
under
okay.
featured products.
Yeah.
So you can find that there. I, I I tried to put the link to it, but this works. Well, because this way you get to see because we have the different sizes and
Different
the
fabrics.
different fabrics, but also the download.
Oh, yep. The pattern comes as a download or a paper
There's just
pattern.
different options, so it's hard to link you to one product, but it doesn't matter. It's right on the homepage. More than you needed to know.
All right. You think we're new at this?
I feel like it.
All right. Well, we have that exciting news in a couple of weeks. And so we're looking forward to bringing you that.
Yeah, in the meantime, if you need to get a hold of us, islandersewing.com. Islandersewing at comcast.net. Email is the easiest way to get a hold of Janet and or Brenda.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we had a great time today. We hope that we brought you some good information, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks on Tuesdays at 2 for Islander Sewing Systems. Thanks, everybody.